be talking about equivalent forms of fraction, decimals, percents, and remember equivalent means equal or the same. So we want fractions and decimals and percents that are equal or the same. So let's talk about what you've learned in the past that represents the same thing. So in previous years, you've gone from decimals to fractions and fractions to decimals. You've done this using place value, and you've done this using division. So your strategies like Tae-Bo and your strategies like 10 hot tamales. And in 6th grade, we're going to be adding on percents. Alright, so let's review what you already know. So let's go ahead and we're going to turn 5/10 into a fraction. So who can tell me what they remember about turning 5/10 into a fraction? And remember, we're going to use place value to do this. So think about the last thing that I say when I say 5/10, because I want to say that decimal using the correct place value. Alright, Mark, so I said tenth as the last thing on that decimal. So that's going to be our denominator. And what's going to be our numerator, which is the top number on a fraction? Good, our 5. Alright, and if you're a prime number, I'll go ahead and stand. Who can tell me, what should I do to this fraction? Alright, my smallest prime number, what are we going to do? We're going to simplify. So I'm going to put 5 and 10 in the ladder. And we're going to use prime numbers on the outside of our ladder. And if you're the prime number 7, what prime number can we use on the outside of this ladder to simplify it? Good, we're going to start with 5. 5 times what will get me 5? And 5 times what will get me 10? Who can tell me what is our new simplified fraction? Excellent, 1/2. So we have 5/10 is equal to 1/2. So we have turned our decimal into an equivalent fraction. Now we're going to go from a fraction to a decimal, and we're going to use division or our strategy Tae-Bo to do this. Top in, bottom out. 5 cannot go into 2, so I'm going to put a 0 and then a decimal, add a 0. Now this turns into a 20. 5 can go into 24 times. 4 times 5 is 20, and we are left with no remainder. So 2/5 is equivalent to 4/10. And this is all review. You've done this in the past. So let's go ahead and add on our new topic today. So let's review or go over percent. So percent means per 100 or out of 100. So the most important thing to remember about percent is that it's always over 100. So think of it like a grade. You always want to make a 100 on your grade. So we can write percent as a fraction or a decimal. This is our percent sign right here. We have 7%, which is equal to 700, or 7 over 100. So there's our percent, our decimal, and our fraction. Alright, so we're going to start off with going from a percent to a fraction. So these are our steps that I would have the students write down. Percent is always over 100. The denominator will be 100, and the percent will go on top. And then we always want to remember to simplify the fraction. So I would start off with something easy like 3%. Let's turn that into a fraction. So let's remember that our denominator is always 100, and our percent will go on top. Can we simplify that? No. 3 is a prime number, so it can't be simplified. Alright, let's go to a little bit harder one. Let's go to 5%. Alright, let's put our denominator as 100. And let's put our 5 on top. Can we simplify that? Yes. Let's put 5 and 100 in the ladder. And let's start with our smallest prime number, 2. Can 2 go into both 5 and 100? No. Can 3 go into both 5 and 100? No. Alright, 5. 5 times 1 will get me 5. 5 times 20 will get me 100. So 5% is equal to 1/20. Alright, let's move on to something a little bit harder. Let's do 40%. This time, I want you to take 20 seconds, work with your elbow partner, and come up with a fraction for 40%. So remember, I'm giving you 20 seconds. Go. Alright, I'm going to use my popsicle sticks today, so if you're sitting at desk number 2, can you tell me what the first step is? Excellent, we're going to put a denominator of 100. If you're sitting at desk number 8, what is the next step? Excellent, we're going to put 40 on top. Alright, if you're sitting at desk number 13, good, we're going to put 40 and 100 in the ladder. Alright, and if you're sitting at desk number 17, yes, we can use the 0 trick because they both end in zeros. So that's going to bring us down to 4 and 10. Alright, if you're sitting at desk number 1, good, we're going to start with 2. 2 can go into 4 2 times, and 2 can go into 10 5 times. So 40% is equal to 2/5. Excellent job. Alright, now we're going to go the opposite way. We're going to go from a fraction to a percent. So our steps are to set up a proportion. We're going to put our fraction on the left and x over 100 on the right. So let's start with an example. If I wanted to turn 2/5 into a percent, we're going to put 2/5 on the left, and we're going to put x over 100 on the right. Depending on how you feel, you can use equivalent fractions or you can make them solve a proportion. Some kids right off the bat see the equivalent fractions, some kids don't. It depends on how you want them to work it in your classroom. I can go either way. So some students right off the bat see that 5 times 20 will get you 100. Whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom. So we would then have 40%. Some you might want to make them solve the proportion, cross multiply, multiply and divide, and you will still come up with 40%. It's going to be how comfortable you feel in your classroom. Alright, so we have 2/5 is equal to 40%. Let's go with a decimal. So this is going to be a little bit harder. 1/8 equals x over 100. This is not going to come out evenly. You will not find an equivalent fraction. So this one they will have to solve with a proportion. So we're going to cross multiply. 8x is equal to 1 times 100. The next step we're going to multiply. 8x is equal to 100, and then the last step would be to divide both sides by 8. X, or our percent, is going to be equal to 12.5%. So this one they could not use equivalent fractions, so they had to solve it using a proportion. Let's do one more example. Let's do 1/2, and let's turn that into a percent. Now this one I tell my students they should have memorized. 1/2 is equal to 50%. Once again, they can use equivalent fractions to get from 2 to 100, multiply times 50. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. But I make them memorize 1/4, 1/2, 3/4 as a fraction, decimal, and percent. It makes it easier because those are ones that you see all the time. So once again, ones that I make them memorize: 1/2, 1/4, 3/4. They're like quarters. So I make them memorize the fraction, decimal, and percent. Alright, so decimals and percent. The magic number is 2. This is very important, and we're going to set up a T-chart. Dr. Pepper. Doctor is on the left, Pepper is on the right. Just like I tell my students, this really doesn't stand for Dr. Pepper. Doctor is decimal, Pepper is percent. Alright, let's turn 7,500 into a percent. The magic number is 2, so we want to move our decimal point 2 places to the left. Start where your decimal point is at and move it 2 times, and now the decimal point is no longer here, it's back here, so 7,500 is equal to 75%. Let's do it again. Let's turn 3/10 into a percent. So we're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. 1, 2, and what do you think is going to go in that hole? A 0. So 3/10 is equal to 30%. I'm going to put down 2 examples. I would like you to work with your elbow partner. I'm going to give you 40 seconds. And I would like you to turn those decimals into a percent. Check with your partner, make sure you're getting the same answers. So let's do 800, and I'm going to give you a tricky one. 1 whole. Remember, you have 40 seconds. Check with your partner, make sure you get the same answer. Okay, so if you are sitting at desk number 22, please tell us what you got for 800. Excellent, 8%. And if you are sitting at desk number 18, what did you get for 1 whole? 100%. Excellent job. Okay, so let's go the reverse way, and I'm going to pick your brain for a second. The magic number is going to stay 2, but if I want to go from a percent to a decimal, what do you think the difference is going to be? Any takers? Give you some time to think about it. Haley, what do you think the difference is going to be? Good. We're not going to go to the right. We're going to move our decimal point to the left. So to go from a percent to a decimal, we're going to move our decimal to the left. Excellent job. So if I want to go from 10% and turn it into a decimal, I want to make sure my decimal point is at the end, and I'm going to move it 2 times to the left. So that would be 1/10. And let's do it again. If I have, excuse me, if I have 5% and I want to turn it into a decimal, I'm going to make sure if my decimal's out of sight, it's to the right, and I'm going to move it 2 times. And in that empty space, I'm going to put a 0. And so now I have 500. Alright, so at this time I would practice. I have desktop travelers to go with this topic to get them up and moving. Find someone who. Scavenger hunts. Kahoot. You want to know who knows what they're doing and who doesn't. I would give them about 20 minutes to practice if you have the class time, and a full small group if you can. Quizzes on Schoology is also a good thing to do so that you know who knows what they're doing and who doesn't. And then the last thing you would want to do is an exit ticket. For this one, I would have them create their own problem on an index card. The key to this is having them make an answer key on the back. Because I always have them have someone else answer it the next day. So when I have them create their own problems, they can make a fraction and then have somebody turn it into a decimal and a percent, or they can make a decimal and turn it into a fraction and a percent, or they can make a percent and turn it into a fraction and a decimal. Their key is they want to make sure their fraction is simplified, and they need to make an answer key on the back because the person solving the problem needs to have something to check their answer with.